Hi, everyone. I'm Alison Ronson. I'm the Program Director for the Northern Science and Research Committee at the Weston Family Foundation. And I'm joining you today from Toronto, which is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples. And it's now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I thought it was important to share that before we begin. Just some housekeeping before we get started with the meat of today's webinar. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. You'll see the button for the Q&A above the pictures of everyone on your webinar screen. There's also a chat function if you want to chat, but we will be looking for questions in the Q&A if you have questions. You can also put your hand up and we can unmute you if you want to ask your question orally or verbally versus writing it in the Q&A. So this is the webinar with the Cree First Nation of Waswanipi, the Forest Authority. They're going to share their research priorities in just a few minutes. But this is the first of two webinars with them. The second one will be Thursday, April 18th at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, if you would like to join that as well, or if you know other researchers who might be interested in learning about the Forest Authority's research work. We also have another community that we're working with as part of the Community Partnerships and Research Fund, the Cree Nation of Chisisibi, the Chisisibi EU Resource and Research Institute, and they have another webinar April 25th at 2 p.m. So we'd love to invite people to join that one as well. We'll ask the community folks to answer questions at the end of their presentations. And just before we move on, this is being recorded, so you should have received that note when you signed in, but I just wanted to make sure you all realize that. Okay, just quickly, a little bit about the Weston Family Foundation. So we are a family foundation that was started in the late 1950s by the Weston family. And since then, the foundation has supported numerous great causes across the country, with the mission to invest in innovation and learning in both health, the pillars of health and landscapes, with the aim to help people across Canada. So millions of dollars have been provided to really great causes over the last 5 decades, which is wonderful, 5 to 7 decades. So we are part of the Northern Science and Research Committee of the foundation. This committee has a goal to protect and restore biodiversity by increasing ecological stewardship and knowledge of northern ecosystems. And the Northern Committee has really been active since around 2007, starting with the flagship program of our Weston Family Awards in Northern Research, which is a graduate student and postdoctoral fellows scholarship that has supported over 350 students and fellows since 2007, and has provided, probably over $1 million to graduate student research since then. And so we really hope that this program will inspire some of the students that participate in it to apply for that program as well. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to David Bysouth to say hello and introduce himself and tell you a little bit about the Community Partnerships and Research grants.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is David Bysouth. I'm the program manager for the Northern Science and Research Committee, and I'm just going to briefly talk about why we're all here today and kind of the program that we're getting going now. So it's called the Community Partnerships and Research Grants, and the point of this initiative is to support Northern biodiversity knowledge creation through building Indigenous community and researcher relationships and facilitating research project co-design. So we realize there's a lot of communities who have some amazing research projects and questions, and in a lot of cases, they just need the right researcher to come in and help provide some of that research capacity to move the needle forward. Next slide. Yeah, so the way that this grant is structured, or the way that the program is structured, is that there's kind of three main phases. The first is why we're here today, and that's for the community to share their research priorities. And this was also done through two-page documents that can be found on the website for this granting initiative. Next, the researchers will apply to the foundation for travel funding, which can be up to $28,000. This funding can also be for relationship building kind of initiatives, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then finally, the researchers will visit the communities to co-design research projects and build relationships. And our idea is that this will happen in the summer or fall of this year. Next slide, sorry. Yeah, so what can you actually use the funding for as the researcher? So some of the options are for travel and accommodation for researchers and students. Having graduate students is a requirement of this program because we're really trying to build that kind of next generation of researcher who is doing research in the right way, with a community first kind of priority. You can also use funding for materials or for in-community project development, things like Indigenous knowledge training, or any other relationship building costs, whether that be a workshop, a knowledge sharing initiative, or anything that fosters relationship building and co-design. So with that really brief overview, we're going to now turn it over to our community presenters, who are going to tell us about their really exciting research projects.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
so
Do
Yeah.
you want to share your screen, Hilda?
Yeah. Do you all see my screen? Okay, great.
Yeah, I just want to introduce myself before I start the presentation. My name is Ian Sagnas. I work for the Cree First Nation of Waswanipi for about 7 years now, with the Wapstand project as well. So I will be the one presenting today with Hilda, with me.
Yeah, and I'm
uh,
Hilden, and I'm a
something-
biologist. I work with the Cree First Nation of Waswanipi since maybe 6 months, I think. So I'm going to be presenting the presentation with Yen today.
You want to go back to the first slide?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to mention some of the people that made this project possible. You can see some of the at the top there, the slide. We have the Grand Council of Crees, Cree Nation Government. We have the CTA, Waswanu, and Apituel Skills Development. Next slide. So you can see here in this map, in USG, we have 9 Cree communities, and Waswanipi is the most southern community in USG. So automatically, whenever there's like in development or any kind of activity going on in our territory, usually it's Waswanipi that gets impacted first, and we're the first community to experience all these different disturbances in the territory. Next slide, please. So, my role at the Cree First Nation of Waswanipi is basically to assist in any kind of wildlife research is done on anywhere in Waswanipi territory. We do wapstand fishes, and then I support the university research projects as well. And I provide and act as a liaison between traditional knowledge holders and scientific holders too. And I hire some youth in our community, some elders to share some of their knowledge with the Cree way of life. And I also monitor natural resource development, forestry, hydro, and mining activity. And we have the Grand Alliance. They're building a railway, and we now have massive forest fires just past last summer. So that's another one I have to monitor. Next slide. So the reason why we uh, we do this project is because basically in Waswanipi, we're very passionate about our territory, and we love to go out there and continue our Cree way of life. So basically, it's everything about our territory is just so important to us. So there's a lot of different industries developing and all of these activities happening in our territory. like they're both habitats fragmented both by natural and increasing anthropogenic disturbances linked to resource exploitation industries. Like there's so much roads that makes it easier to access. Like fishermen and hunters are coming in. Not only the industries are creating disturbances, but there's more people coming in to our territory. Yeah, next slide. So the reason why we picked the marten, we studied the marten. We asked some locals in our community, ever since modern day activity, all the disturbances happening, they always say like, yeah, there's a decrease in marten, and they know the best. They trapped them and they hunted them and they harvested them the fur, and so basically they a lot of them said marten is declining. So another good reason why we chose marten is because it's an umbrella species, which means it it demands a lot of territory and he's like an old forest. And if he's not doing good, other species around like an umbrella, they're all going to be affected. Next slide. So our first objective is to develop a meaningful database on marten to be able to provide recommendations during consultations with the government, new developing projects, promoters, and industries. And our second objective is to provide a scientific database in support of Cree knowledge. So we bring in a lot of Cree knowledge and we use a lot of scientific knowledge and we combine them together and has been very successful. So we want to continue working that way. So our third objective for this project is to promote Waswanipi, its anatomy and independence in terms of managing economic development and land protection. Another way is to provide work for people, and instead of working at the mine or a forestry company, so you can go out there and work for the environment or get your hands on with different technology and learn some Cree knowledge from our elders. Next slide. So basically what we do is we set up motion detecting cameras, like solar panel motion detecting cameras in the forest, and we face it at the towards the bait. We have different kind of setups, and we actually use traditional knowledge as well. We invite some of the trappers, expert trappers, to come out with us and show us what would be an ideal habitat for the marten and what's the best habitat for marten, and where the best spot they're going to run, most likely going to run. So here in this picture, you can see the camera and the bait. We use beaver carcasses for bait because they seem to last longer than any other bait we've used, and it does give out a good smell when it's getting rotten. Yeah, and another reason why we picked beavers because we actually hire our local trappers to go trap them and show us how to trap beaver. Just another way to promote our Cree way of life and our knowledge in that way. And they actually we've actually went as far as them teaching us how to skin the beaver, how to clean the fur, and we're not just using this food to us, and we're not using it to just to let it go to waste while we're working, hanging it on a tree. We're actually benefiting from it, and we're actually learning from it, and it seems to be working good with that kind of bait. Normally we use like half a beaver, but if it's a big beaver, we use half. If it's a smaller one, we use a full one. So you can see here at the top, we have one of our elders on the team teaching us how to set up the bait and the best way to the different angles of the camera. So pretty much we set it up like that. The only thing missing in this picture with the bait is we put some boughs on top of the bait just to eliminate the birds from getting it before the marten. So it seems to last longer when we cover the top of the bait with boughs, which is actually we actually learned that from the traditional side. Next slide. So on this map here, you can see our territory in Waswanipi in orange, all the different trap lines. And if right in the middle on W21, that's where our community is located at. So we do 9 different trap lines. We set up about 5 to 10 different cameras in each trap line. It varies depending on weather and access to the locations and distance and travel time. Yeah, so yeah, you can kind of see like we compare different areas, the southern areas, northern areas, some places that are highly disturbed, some places that are very pristine and untouched, and we do different kind of calculations with our data by covering north, east, west, and south of our territory. If you can see down here at W25B, it's one of the most southern trap lines that we work on for this project. And it's very, they have a big gold mine there, and there's hydro power lines all over. And we have a lot of forestry happening there, and it's very disturbed. And we have the most northern one here, W05A, which is more pristine and harder to get access to there. Yeah, and yeah, next slide. So in these photos, you can from our cameras, you can tell that it's not only marten that we capture in our photos with our spy point cameras. We capture different species, and we get wolves, we get fishers, we even get like owls and different kind of birds. So it's not just marten, but our main goal and focus is marten. But it's always nice to see different wildlife in the area, just to monitor their behavior and different predators around. What could be like a predator to marten? You know, we get an idea of the whole surrounding of the forest.
So yeah, I'm gonna take it from here.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
let's talk about a bit of the evolution of the project. So over the years, some aspects were added to the project. Our aim is to improve the Wapistan project, and Wapistan is Cree for marten. So what we want is take into account the new challenges we face to protect the Cree way of life and the territory. As the marten needs snow to complete its life cycle, it was natural for us to take climate change into our project. So to do that, we purchased a weather station to collect data on temperature, relative humidity, atmospheric pressure, and precipitation. And to have more precise monitoring of snow conditions, we installed snow rulers. As Jan say, and I think you all know that, last year, major forest fire burnt a significant part of the Waswanipi territories. From our perspective in the project, some of our study sites were burnt, as well as equipment. And we agreed to keep cameras at locations impacted by the fires to see how is the presence of marten affected by that, and to collect data on other mammal species. And what we want now, en fait, it's the project is running since 2018, but we think it's necessary to increase and improve the database. So that's why we are here today. And for the future research project, what we want first is to continue to monitor the presence of marten in sites with good habitat quality, and to see if we can observe a decrease in the population. The second objective is to monitor sites impacted by the fire to see if the marten stayed or left, and if it will recognize eventually. And the third objective is to integrate the climate change in the analysis. So basically use data from the various instruments we put in place and review existing available data in order to create a database with weather parameters for the project. So yeah, I think that sums up our expectations for the future for this project. I don't know if anyone have questions for us or.
I don't see any right now, Hilden, but maybe some will pop up. So maybe we can move on to the next research priority. Oh, okay, we just got one. What does the data show now regarding the marten population?
Jan, do you want to answer, or maybe I can?
I can elaborate a bit on that. Yeah, we don't have an exact number of how much marten, but we do know that they're more abundant in the northern area of the trapline of the territory. They're also bigger there and healthier compared to the southern territories. I don't know if that's answers your question.
And plus, if I can add, it hasn't been yet analyzed fully, so that's why it's part of the first objective. So to really see how, what's the trend of the population and good habitat quality for the marten. And we looked a bit at the disturbance. I think I saw the question just popping, but for now, because we chose sites where there was good habitat quality, even if overall in the trap line the disturbance is higher, for example, when locally the habitat is good, so we can see marten there, even though in the whole trap line is not affected. So there hasn't been yet differences between that because there was a bias in the way the sites were chosen. But so that's why we're focusing more in the next years to see, like in these habitats that are supposed to be good, if it's going to increase, decrease, or stay the same. And we can adapt also, but the data frame will how it's taken to. So.
Michelle, did you have something to add?
Yeah, well, just the fact that related to the selection of the sites, for sure, as Jan explained, we selected areas based on the traditional knowledge and the Taliban contribute. But at the same time, we had to understand. You have to understand that we are in a developed area, right? There's a lot of forestry happening in those areas, so we had to choose areas that we need to have a long-term or mid-term perspective in terms of maintaining those cameras without being cut and thrown into the limber, right? So we had to choose those residual forest sites. So we had to do that analysis following the Taliban's information. That's why when we through those residual forests, we had at least at least a perspective of a 25 years of period to install those cameras, and so that we can have a follow-up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You guys want to move on to your next priority?
I think it's Michelle, right?
It's okay. It's my turn. It's my turn. Fine. Yeah, thank you. My name is Michel Arès. I work with the Forest Authority Department. I work with Jan. We're a small team at the Forest Authority Department, and we have a big area to work on. Jan and all the team there, we're talking about territory as big as Belgium. The main activity at the Forest Authority is to comply with the Pays des Braves, follow up the forestry activities going out everywhere over the territory. There's 62 trap lines. All of them that are impacted year after year by forest development activity as agreed into the Pays des Braves agreement signed in 2002. Beside that, we have also several concerns related to land use management related to the territories. The Wapistan project is one of good example of things that we've been working on. And now we're looking at restoration. Actually, we had a severe wildfire, in summer 2023. And this next priority is something that's linked again to the Taliman, to the Cree way of life, and it's to maintain wildlife habitat and following impact from wildfires and increasing climate change. The wildfires in 2023 were totally how can I say totally it's something that was never happened. It never happened. I'm trying to search my words to express the forest fire in boreal forest has always been known by the Crees in the traditional way of life. They know that the fires could start here and there and covered maybe 400 hectares, 500 hectares, or 40 hectares, or 20 hectares. But now we have 700,000 hectares that burn only in Waswanipi territory. And I don't talk about the other community, Uje, Mistissini, Nemaska, and all the other communities. We're really up to millions of hectares that burned in summer 2023. So our concern are more focused on the wildlife habitat and using ways to restore. So maybe if we can start the slideshow, I can give more detail on what we're looking at priority.
Michel, can you share your screen, or do you want us to share the presentation?
Oh yeah, well you have the last version, right?
I think so, yeah. Just give me a minute.
Because I can pop up mine if you want. It's like you are.
I have it if you.
Yeah, it's like
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, good day. Yeah, so the willow plantation, this is something actually last fall I went to visit producers of willow based in Saint-Roch-de-la-Chigane. They do a lot of willow production, and they extract willow as corn in the south there, and they have a great expertise. And I was interested. I was really interested in part of their presentation when they mentioned about that moose eat willow. So when I came back to Waswanipi, and then I talked with the Taliman, and they say to me, "Yeah, sure, the moose they like willow." And so I say, "Okay, let's go further on this there and talk about it." So the next slide, please. Yeah, so Jan explained you where Waswanipi is. I guess there's not much to add either. That Waswanipi is at the confluence of two rivers, the Chibougamau River and the Pamiska River, right? And that river there goes and flows into the several lakes there and reach the Nottoway, and then it goes way up to reach the Broadback, and then goes into the James Bay. Next slide, please. There's three things that we want to restore the wildlife habitat. There's three reasons why we have to be concerned. As I mentioned, the wildfires, but there's also the decline of the moose population, and Jan has been working on that very, very closely. And then there's the Cree way of life, which to express into the traditional knowledge about the habitat of the moose specifically. And the idea, well, it's, as always, is to improve the calving rates and to raise the population of moose, so that the Cree way of life, moose has always been into the diet, right? There's no maxi in the Waswanipi. The community there is always been practicing their activity in order to feed their family. And the moose, the beaver, geese are mainly still trapped today, hunt today, and fish naturally also to support the community and to support the family and their way of life. So that's why it's very important for us to address this moose population decline. Next slide, please. Well, there was some studies that put up in 2021 that showed that there was a problem with the moose population decline. Exactly what's the mix? What's the situation? How come we have, as you can see, we're now at 0.4 moose per 10 square kilometer. That's not much. If you go in Gaspésie and then the other park over there, for sure you have different ecosystem, different environment. But we're talking about 6, 7, 8 moose per 10 square kilometers. And the park north in Parc des Laurentides, we still have also interesting rate of 6 or 7 moose per 10 square kilometer. But it's very getting low in the boreal forest. So we next slide, please. And then there's the results for there's 2 zones. The zone 22. Sorry, can you go back to the previous one? Sorry, the zone 22. That's the zone that is very close. That's the northern part, and you will see that for us there was some interest in looking into that area there because of the wildfires. So I will make the relationship into it, and then we can go back to the next one now, zone 17, which is another area, southern also, just south of the 22, and for which we have in both areas. Mostly in the 17 area, the decline of moose population. Now, if we go at the next slide, which is the other thing, no, there's something missing there. There's one missing, or where am I here? There's a one on the wildfire, right? There must be a slide. Ah, yeah, there you go. So the wildfire. So if you go up north there, the kind of dolphin that you can see down in orange, that's the conservation area from the Waswanipi territory that they always been asking for. They call it the Michigamish area. And within that area, that's in the zone 22 that I was mentioning to you about. And within that area there, you can see the forest fire that happened in what is colored there. It's kind of a pink there, the color there. That the whole area. We're talking about 240,000 hectares that burned there. There was 2 or 3 fires that catch together there. And this is really pristine area. And if you make reference to Jan's presentation, that's where we had also this pristine area for the marten, right? For the marten population, the marten follow-up that we want to prioritize. So that's one sector that we have of concern that was very impacted. And then you have another one south at W14. Well, you see W14 that you have 2 heads facing one each other, the head of the fire and the head of the Waswanipi Lake. And then that area also is also of concern, and that's in the zone 17 that I mentioned about, also for moose population decline. Yeah, so we can go to the next slide. No, I think we missed that one there with the Cree traditional. Oh, there. It's me who mix up my thing. I'm always mixing up. Sorry about that. So this is a really interesting, presentation done by an elder from Waswanipi called named Alan Saganash Jr. And for which he expressed the traditional understanding of the moose, the wildlife, the moose habitat, right? All from all the seasons, where they go and where they come. And Jan was teach about that, and he's teaching, and he learned about that, and it's generation from generation. And for us, that will help us into our willow plantation to locate where we want to put some willow. Well, we're going to try some willow into the objectives. So that's a very significant and very important information for us in terms of understanding the wildlife habitat of the moose. And all the 6 seasons of the Cree year of activities and traditional way of life. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing there. Okay, so we go to the objectives, I guess, or to yeah, the opportunity of experimentation. So as we had experimentation with the Wapistan project, now we with the willow we try to work with the Ramo. That's the company, the farmer I talked to you about, that they were located in Saint-Roch de la Chigan. They're quite significant producer of willow, and they opened a plant in close to La Sarre. They call it La Corne. And that's that. Yeah, if I remember well, it's La Corne. That's somewhere close to Amos, and they have a small farm there that they started up, and the idea is to produce willow in that area there, in their farm there, the second farm there, and to introduce willow into for different application. One of them is to prepare for against to protect communities against wildfire, because the willow has some properties that it can help to limit, to stop the forest fires, wildfires to communities. There's some Santerre is actually looking at the possibility of doing that, but for us it's more like I mentioned about to look at the possibility to use it for wildlife habitat restoration, which we are very interested in getting into. Actually, our project with Ramo there has been submitted to Aviva into their carbon credit RFP, and with Tree Canada, and we're expecting to have some answers from them in the next months. In a way that Aviva, that that's the insurance company there, they would be interested. They would be interested into supporting at the broader project to expand this willow plantation. So we can go at the next slide, please. So there's two sites of experimentation that we seek to have to interest researchers to go and help us into. You will see the objectives will follow. They will follow. So that's the site that we mentioned about. That's the one north within the Dolphin there, with the Michigamish protected area, with the W5B and W5A. Those are areas for which the Taliban are committed. They mentioned their interest to have these kinds of project going on their territory in order to support, because they lost lots of land. If you go on the small hills over there, there's still some hills over there, and you look at the landscape, you can see how much impacted the territory was from the wildfires last summer. And we can imagine that because there's still some population of moose there, interesting population of moose. We believe that to give a hand through the traditional knowledge, to give a hand and add some willow, it could help. The objectives are the next slide. So to determine the type of willow, because there's salix, there's several types of willow that they can produce in La Corne. But we want to know also the one that grows over there and that can be reproduced. And also that eventually we can reproduce in Waswanipi. Why not? We can reproduce them in Waswanipi. So we need to look at those aspects. And the second is how it can sustain the moose population, how it can support the moose. Even though traditional knows about that, but because of the precarity of what's left, in terms of vegetation, because of the forest fire and the impact of the forest fire, we want to also to follow up on how it will can be used for the support of not only for the moose but also for the beaver, right? Because the beaver also, some of the Taliban there, they really wish to reintroduce the beaver, because beaver creates wildlife habitat. Yeah, so we go back to the last two slides there. It's the other side. If we go at the other, the other side. So that's the other side I was talking to, the two heads that confronting the head of the Waswanipi Lake and the head of the forest fire. They call it the forest fire 314, right? They give them fire name. And what you see in blue right in the middle of the head of the fire there, what's in blue there, these are areas that we suspect that there will be no growth. I mean, no natural growth coming in there. They call it in French accident de régénération, because the stands there of black spruce were lower than 60 years old in those areas. There were plantation maybe, or there were young stands there that were not 7 meters and higher. So we expect that there will be very low capacity to have natural growth in those areas, and these accidents de régénération like that, it's very bad for the landscape. And we expect also to introduce the willow in some way there to support and to accelerate the natural growth there, and also but to support the wildlife habitat restoration. So essentially, this the same objective in the two sets. So one is south of the Waswanipi River. That's very close to Waswanipi. That's about maybe 40, 45 kilometers, 50 kilometers from Waswanipi. And the other one is more north of Broadback River. That one is a little how can I say, far from Waswanipi, but in both cases, the Taliban are interested in having the Taliban I mentioned. The Taliban are already aware of these projects, and they want those things to happen on their territory, and they're willing to participate. So as their family, yeah. So the objectives are the same in both areas. Maybe adding what I mentioned about the accident régénération. And then naturally we have our team, the last slide, we have our team with Jan and as a land keeper, and then we have also the Wapistan team that we've been training. The department have been working with youth, so they have a good capacity in the field there. We have to support and to help the researchers and to their work, and provide them guidance and security in moving over the territory and doing the research project. Thank you. Any question?
Okay, maybe we can ask for your last presentation, Elise, and if there are questions for either project, we can answer them at the end.
Right, sorry, not this one. So it's good, you can see the presentation. So I guess since I'm the last one, I might be repeating some of the things that were said previously, but it's good you'll remember the important points of the context in Waswanipi, I guess. So the third axis is fish monitoring at Teodat Lake. So specifically to survey the walleye population there. So just to begin with, oh, I cannot change the slide. I don't know how to, it doesn't change. So Alison, do you think you can do it? I guess.
Yes, hold on.
Okay, sorry, it doesn't change.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. Just a moment.
So just to give you a bit of the context, but the two first presentations mentioned it a bit. So Waswanipi is the southern most Cree community in the UHC. So the territory is divided in family hunting and trapping grounds. So as other people mentioned, it's called trap lines that are places where traditional activities such as hunting, fishing, and trapping occur. And it's done under the supervision of a Taliban. So he manages the activities on his family trap line. So just in Waswanipi, there are 62 trap lines. So you can, I guess you've seen the map, it's pretty vast. So it's, as Michelle mentioned, it's the size of Belgium. So yeah, it goes all the way to Sentar and all the way to Lake Evans in the north. So It's located mostly in boreal forest, and as I think Michelle and Jan presented it well, one of the main natural disturbances occurring there is forest fires. So in the last summer, that's where there were the largest forest fires. So 700,000 hectares of forests were affected just for the Waswanipi territory. So it's part of the dynamic of boreal forests, but yeah, that was important considering the other years of forest fires. I think the last major fire occurred in 2013, the last time, but it wasn't in that nature. There are also insect epidemics occurring and wind through that can impact the landscape, but to a lesser extent. So just to give you an idea, the last survey conducted for insect epidemic was done in 2023, so last summer, but just before the forest fire. But there was like low to moderate damages done by insects, and it was mostly like slightly defoliated and dried out. So it's not as important as forest fires. But other than that, as also the Ian mentioned too in this project from Martin, anthropogenic disturbance are occurring, and the main one is forest fire. So, and it's developing also an important road network. It's not just like the cut, but also all the roads associated with it. So before 1976, it wasn't logging was kind of limited, but since then it has grown considerably. And if you look in the map each year's since 1976, almost the whole area was harvested. Not like if you overlap all the years, so it's considerable. And it's mostly happening in Waswanipi, Ujebugumum, south of Mistissini, so the southern Cree community. There are also a few mining companies and transmission lines, power lines. So those are the disturbances that can occur on the territory. If you go on the next slide, to understand why we want to monitor fish in this context, we have first to acknowledge how important the fish is for the Crees. So it's at the heart of the Cree's diet. So it's one of the main traditional food for the Cree, and it also contributes to food security. So more in the north, in the store, the food prices are high, so it creates sometimes a food security issue. And by having traditional food harvested from the land, such as fish, well, it allows to address this food security issue. And moreover, well, it's a traditional food contributes to healthier population, as store-bought food is often processed, so with higher sugar content. And the traditional Cree diet is high in protein, and fish is a good source for that. So Crees like whitefish, pike, trout, walleye, and they're nutritious and they contain like a high vitamins and good fats, so it prevents also heart disease. So it's good in that way. So, but other than the diet and addressing food security issue, fish represents more than just that. It's a way to connect to the land for the Cree. So it's important for the Cree to spend time on the land and give and receive from nature, and it's part of the Cree culture, the Cree identity. It's also a way to transmit traditional knowledge. So it was done originally orally. So it's a big part going fishing to preserve the Cree culture. So it means a lot for the fish. So that's why monitoring to preserve the resource, but also to kind of set a baseline for one of the lake that was chosen. So we can go to the next slide. We chose the Teodat Lake. So Michelle presented it a bit. So Theodat Lake is located, well, it's overlapping the trap lines W5, 5A, 5B. So the ones that was in the first area of Michelle's presentation. So it's considered a pristine site because it's part of the, it's not, there's no forestry occurring. So there's no anthropogenic disturbance. However, there has been like there have been forest fires. So in the last summer. So, but we cannot remove that. But otherwise, there's no, and hopefully there's not going to be anthropogenic activities in the area. So it's a good place to at least have a baseline in terms of fish population. There's one outfitting camp there. I guess that would be the only anthropogenic disturbance in the area. We can go to the next slide. We chose the walleye fish species because it's pretty abundant in the lakes in the region. So this species is almost present on half of the Quebec's territory. So it goes like up to the north in James Bay and all the way to the south. And so for sure, the biology of individuals living more in the north is a bit different than what is found in the south, but it's found in not too deep, cool, and turbid waters. And AUHG is spawning occurs between May and mid-June. So it's a slow growth species. So normally it will grow about 85 millimeters per year. And it reaches sexual maturity between 2 and 8 years old. I think we can go to the next one. So the aim of the project is really to sample the walleye population in Theodat Lake in order to set a baseline in this area. There was no study done before on fish populations in this area. So we want to do that in order to monitor any changes in the fish health or population. It's sure that with the forest fires, there might have been an impact, for example, on mercury. Well, it maybe not maybe this summer we'll see it, but in mercury content, but at least it's going to give like a reference level because we have nothing yet in terms of contaminants or fish population trends. So in order to do that, we first want to describe the health status of the walleye. So contaminants. So normally we do like 5 contaminants. So mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead. Those are can have negative impact on human health. But sometimes selenium too is studied has a beneficial element. And the second thing we want to follow is we want to describe the walleyes population. So in terms of age structure, sex ratio, condition, growth, length, and weight. And that way, like at the moment, we have nothing about those 2 components. So if there are changes in near this lake, for example, and anthropogenic disturbance, we wouldn't be able to appreciate like the impact. So we really want to have something to be able to, a starting point for the future. I think that's it. Well, I said it in the privacy.
Okay, thank you, Elise. Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any questions for Michelle or Elise? You can put them in the Q&A. Okay, if not, David, do you want to speak to this slide?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks everyone for the updates on all the interesting research projects, and we really appreciate your time sharing with us. So all the cool projects that you got going on. So we just want to quickly touch on how to apply for the community partnership and research grants. So there's lots of information on our website at westonfoundation.ca in the Northern Science and Research section. So if you navigate to that page and then go to the pilot community partnerships and research grants, there's information on all the research projects that you heard about today, as well as the application form that you can fill out to apply. And when you do fill out the application form, we would ask that you send it to northern@westonfoundation.ca, and applications are due on May 15th by 5 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, again, if you have any questions about the program or the Community Partnership and Research Grants program or anything else, you can reach me at david.bysouth@westonfoundation.ca. And again, we really encourage you to go to the website and check out all the information, and please apply, and we'd love to see as many applications as possible. So again, thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for all the speakers who took the time to share with us all the information, and I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you. And please share this information widely with your networks. And we hope to see some applications roll in. And as just another reminder, this webinar will happen again on Thursday at 10 a.m. So if you know people who are interested, please send them to our website. And again, the Chisisibi EU Resource and Research Institute will have another webinar April 25th at 2 p.m. Thank you so much, Michelle and Elise and Hilden and Ian. Those were great presentations.
Thank you.
And really interesting research projects.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.